Item B is the request by Pam McDermott to be appointed to the Essex Fun Fest Committee.
Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item C, Autism Ontario, World Autism Awareness Day, and they're asking that the town make a proclamation that April 2nd be declared World Autism Awareness Day.
Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Sweet. I would imagine this would fall under community services. They're talking about raising the flag on April 2nd, it sounds like. Is there any way you can have someone from your department look into how we get a flag and perhaps raising that at Town Hall that day?
Mr. Sweet.
Through your worship, I do notice it says if you had a flag last year, we may still have one, so I'm not sure if I see they're nodding their heads yes, so we will arrange to have that flag up.
Wonderful, thank you.
Welcome. Anything else? All in favor of that motion? Motion carries.
Item D is Committee of Adjustment meeting agenda for the February 17th, 2015 regular meeting.
Moved by Councillor Vogt and supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item E is a letter from the Ontario Ministry of Transportation regarding the consultation on the Ontario's default speed limit, and they're asking for stakeholder input on whether to consider a change to Ontario's default speed limit for local roads within urban areas from 50 kilometers per hour to 40.
Moved by Councillor Vogt, supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions? Councillor Vogt.
Thank you, Worship. I can't speak for my colleagues, obviously, on council, but I personally have no interest in this, in any consideration of changing anything as it relates to speed. It's not broke, let's not fix it. That's my opinion, and I hope the balance of council would support that because the further we drag it out, the longer we drag it out, the more credibility it gives, and I hope we stick to that position.
Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, in the letter we received from MTO, they speak to to be able to provide your comments if you wish to do on an individual basis or on behalf of the town. The town has already looked at a position and will certainly take the instruction of council, but if you also want to do it as an individual, there is a SurveyMonkey URL that you can go to, and it's easily go through it, and it answers. There's about 10 questions that you can take a look at. I've already looked at it, answered it on an individual basis, and I would concur with council. It's a very difficult thing to enforce. Those areas that we've already got reduced to 40 kmh are, I know I live on one of those streets, and it's a very, very difficult thing to enforce. And I appreciate the effort by the province to worry about safety, but it's going to be one of causing our OPP a lot of grief, I think.
Councillor Caxero and then Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, they are asking for our input, but ultimately it looks like they have about 3 different choices that they're looking at. They may mandate it. They may allow the municipalities to choose on their own as to what they wish to do within their corridors, or a combination of the two, I think. I know I read a bit on an email that was sent out with regards to this item, and the idea is that a pedestrian that gets hit, I think it's at 50 kilometers or greater a rate of speed, has like a 10% chance of survival, versus somebody that gets hit at 30 kilometers or less has a 75% chance of survival. So, I mean, I understand where it's coming from. We had a fatality in our municipality on County Road 50 last year. So, I mean, that's, I guess, when the decision becomes a little harder to make, when you have somebody that you know that's gotten hit and killed. You obviously don't want to see that happen. Is it just because of the speed? Probably not. So certainly, maybe this will bring about some more discussion with regards to other things such as paved shoulders and better lighting and all that kind of stuff. But certainly it's something, I guess, that, yeah, we can offer our opinion, but we're going to be dictated to as to how they're going to go about it.
Councillor Snively? Oh, fine, okay. Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if council should send a letter or just stating an opinion saying either maintain the current speed limit of 50. If we don't write back with anything, then we don't have an opinion. Then we technically aren't voting. So I'm just wondering if this council should vote on the bullets, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then we respond back.
Now is the opportune time to make that motion that you would like. Motion on the floor. Motion to receive and accept this. All in favor? Motion carries. Councillor Bondi?
Well, I don't know what the balance of council is, so I'm not willing to make a motion, but
Councillor Caxero?
I'd be willing to make a motion that that our council support permitting the municipality to set the default limit within our municipality, so that it'll be up to us. Which, if it's up to us, then we decide whether we want to keep it at 50 or 40. Because otherwise, it could be reducing the speed limit to 40 through a legislative change. I mean, I think if they get enough municipalities say, listen, we want it to be left up to us, they may not force it to the municipalities within their boundaries. They may do something different outside the boundaries in a high traffic area, but within the municipalities it'd be up to us.
Do we have a seconder? Seconder for discussion. Mr. Phillips first.
Thank you, through you, your worship. I too looked at the 4 options earlier, and what it strikes me is that option 3, which Councillor Caxero was promoting, would suggest that once you've set that default speed limit, it is uniform throughout your entire community. It's either 40 or it's 50, with the exception of what there's already provided for the school zones where it is 40. If you choose option 4, that provides the municipality to set different levels of speed throughout the community, so that there may be areas of your residential areas that you say, you know what, we might want to set a 40 here near a community center, and it gives you the option of setting 50s and 40s where you choose to set them. And so I think if it's the will of council to have that authority to set them within, it's really option 4 as opposed to option 3. If that would be my advice.
Councillor Vokes?
Thank you, Worship. I really don't want to place ourselves on the railroad track by doing anything other than keeping it status quo. Because soon as we do anything to change or control the speed limit, the first time somebody gets hurt or killed, we find ourselves in a court of law. Because we deem to change it. We deem to control it. Just let the province take it, let them worry about it, let them set the standards, and wash our hands of it. We got so many other things to take care of and be responsible for. That's my position. I don't know why we're getting into bogging administration down, bogging council down with worrying about whether we change the speed limit. Like, just leave it. It's status quo. It's not even a problem. There's no problems out there. Actually, the problem is the fact that it's 40 that they want to change it in terms of Fairview, where we can't control that speed because nobody goes 40. So what are we going to do? Make it 40 so why are we getting involved with it? Just leave it alone.
Okay. Councillor Caxero, you have...
I would be willing to switch that around. I didn't catch number 4, and yes, that would serve, I think, in my opinion, better. If Councillor Bondi is okay with that.
Would you like to change a 3 to a 4? Sure. Okay. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when I read this, I'm starting to wonder now. I agree with what Councillor Vokes is saying, somewhat, that I would like to leave it at 50. The first option, or first bullet, says to maintain current default speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour. So we already have a default speed limit, it sounds like, of 50. You can put up whatever else, like if you want it slower in front of schools or hospitals or so on, you can put a 40 up if you want, but you just have to have it posted. It sounds like in these other points, bullet says, 4 says, through a legislative change, permit municipalities to set a different default speed limit made, municipal boundaries or neighborhoods, and require the posting of a sign at each entry point of the municipality or neighborhood, which we don't have to do right now, if we just leave it the way it is. It sounds like we're gonna have to put signs up in urban centers that, I don't know, it makes me sound like this, it makes me think that it's gonna cost us some money here, that we're gonna have to start putting a bunch of signs up. So I'd be tempted to say, just maintain the current default speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour, which is 1.
Mr. Phillips, and Councillor Snively.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. There are jurisdictions where, as Councillor Malash is indicating, where you enter an urban area, a larger urban center, and it's posted on the outside of the community. I'm familiar with a number of jurisdictions in the West, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, for example, both have those laws. They state as you come into a larger center like Winnipeg, it'll state that the urban speed limit is 50 km/h unless otherwise posted, and back lanes are 30. And that's your one warning as you come into the community. Although you will find school zones are also designated, but you will find them as you go through. The current law in Ontario does provide that we can change it to 40. We can reduce it, but only at specific areas which are defined by the legislation. So it's school zones, and I think there are a couple of other categories. I'm not familiar with the HTA on that. But it does speak to that portion that it's 50 throughout in an urban center, or unless otherwise posted, and there's only certain areas. Option 4 would give the municipality the right to nominate those. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, that it would be work on you and the administration to have to control that even further. This is a provincial bill. I think it was a private member's bill that put somebody that's come forward in the legislature, and they're looking at imposing something province-wide. And there'll be a lot of consultation, I suspect, on this. They do invite that there'll be meetings following the public inputs process, which they're asking for currently.
Councillor Snively.
I have to, through you, Your Worship, I have to agree with Councillor Vokes. I don't see where there's a problem here with speed anywhere, to be honest with you, with the current speed limits. I would recommend we leave it at 1. That's my opinion. I have to agree. I think most of the councillors here agree with it too. You know, I don't think we have a problem out there. Thank you.
Councillor Bundy.
Thank you. I won't be supporting the motion I seconded. I just wanted to get a motion on the table so we could have this discussion. I think it was important that we had this discussion as a council, and this gave us a mechanism to do it, because I think it's important that we respond back, because I think it's important that we vote. And if they didn't get any comments from us, then they would just assume something, and I don't want them to assume anything. So I won't be supporting the motion, and I will be supporting option A, or bullet A, with all of the comments made by Councillor Vokes and Deputy Mayor Malash. They're very logical in administration. So thank you.
Anything further? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion defeated. Councillor Vokes.
I'll put a motion forward that we support A, maintain the current status.
Supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions to that motion? All in favor of that motion? Motion carried. And I don't know, I could ask the clerk if these addresses, like you're invited. Oh, I did say opposed, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
Oh,
Mayor
sorry.
McDermott.
I thought I did.
And I'd like,
Because I saw you were opposed.
I would like it
Go
noted
ahead.
also, please.
So noted, sir. But in the letter that we got from the MTO to the clerk, there is an address on here. You know, they want you to provide comments, or you can complete a questionnaire if available. It's, anybody at home has got a pencil, would like to jot it down. It's https://www.surveymonkey, all one word, .com/s/speed limit Ontario. And hopefully we would get this on our webpage, possibly at the town office. Yeah, you know, so anyone looks at our webpage, you'll be able to get it off here. There's a telephone number to call the head of traffic operations also, so that will get on our webpage. Thank you very much.
Item 10, committee meeting minutes. A, Committee of Adjustment meeting, December 16th, 2014.
Received and adopted by Councillor Vokes. Councillor Caxero seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item B, Communities in Bloom, November 25th, 2014 meeting.
Councillor Vokes moves. Receipt and adoption. Councillor Caxero, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item C, January 27th, 2015 Communities in Bloom meeting.
Councillor Bjorkman moves and adopts. Deputy Mayor Malash supports. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 11, bylaws, bylaw number 1387 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 224, the bylaw to regulate parking.
Councillor Snively, Councillor Caxero, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item B, bylaw number 1388 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the February 16th, 2015 regular council meeting.
Motion to enact the bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, Councillor Bjorkman supports. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item C, bylaw 1389 being a bylaw to appoint a fire chief for the corporation of the town of Essex.
Councillor Vokes moves, Deputy Mayor Malash supports. Any questions? All in favor of that motion? Motion carries. Welcome, Mr. Arneal. It is official.
Item D is bylaw 1392, being a bylaw to provide for the Belcraft Beach Diversion Drain, Belcraft Beach Drainage 2012 study, final report option C, and the first and second reading and provisional adoption of the bylaw is required.
Motion to enact.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
E is bylaw number 1393, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services and the Corporation of the Town of Essex for the provision of police services under Section 10 of the Police Services Act.
Motion to
Moved
enact.
by Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 13, new business. Councillor Vokes, the RFP for demolition of silos.
Thank you. I won't prolong this. I think it's pretty obvious what I'm going to ask for. So I'm just looking for support from council tonight to move forward with a request for proposal. Certainly, as we know, we're coming into budget deliberations, and even though we have some previous amounts suggested to us before, I would like a current financial document that says this is how much it will be today to tear them down, and get that approval going in budget deliberations to remove the silos at the earliest convenience. I know when Mr. Jelinas was here, we had some discussions, and my point at that time was, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater until we look at what it's going to cost. And then Doug had come to us with a report in a short time period after that reassured the dollars that we were looking at that given evening still were in good standing. And I think obviously collectively as a council, our approach after seeing that and solidifying that was obviously to move forward and tearing them down. So I'm just looking for, again, for support for the request, to get the request for the cost of tearing them down. And I'll make that a motion.
Supported by Councillor Snively. With discussion, Councillor Caxaro.
Through your worship to administration, I know I had a brief discussion with our CAO with regards to possibly putting out a joint RFP for both the arena and the silos. Is that still something being considered, or have we already put out an RFP for the arena? Okay.
Mr. Sweet.
Your worship, good lead-in. We have prepared a draft RFP, knowing this was coming to council, and based on the previous council direction for a cost for the Essex Memorial Arena, a cost for the Essex silos, and a joint cost to do both. So.
Perfect.
Anything further? Donna Hunter.
Through you, your worship, I just want to clarify, we're just issuing the RFP, we're not going ahead with the work? Okay, perfect, because we wouldn't get grant money if that was approved.
Right. I think we need to know where we're at, right? Irrelevant. No, you're definitely right, Donna. It's not, doesn't advance us to the next stage. It just gets us an understanding of what we're looking at to tear them down, if that onus comes on to the town to do that. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? We had a motion.
Yes.
All in favor of that motion? Motion carries. Council votes, number 2.
Thank you. Again, this was on the agenda, I think on the evening we had the snowstorm and council was canceled. I just want to talk to council about putting something in place that gives us some foothold, if you will, in terms of the store frontages downtown when they become in what one could perceive as a deplorable condition. That gives us a lateral opportunity through our bylaw enforcement to request that of the store owners or the store landlords, that they afford the opportunity to, where required, to freshen up with a little bit of paint, where required to get the windows cleaned, where required to just cosmetically fix the front of their stores up, because some of them sit there and have sat there for months on end with no vacancy taking place, and landlords actually not even living in our environment. So they become in a condition of dirtiness. They become in a condition of where things are falling down and got to be nailed back up. So this opportunity would just allow us as a town to, without putting a financial burden on any of the landlords, because we're smart enough to know that if they're not making money as a result of getting those particular pieces of real estate leased or rented out, that financial demands are on them too. So, but just something that simply says, as you can afford to, and as bylaw says, keep the place cleaned up and fixed up. That's all. because the downtown would certainly need that small opportunity to do that and keep it looking as good as it can until we can get it turned around.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that there has not been a motion made on this, but just for clarification, when Councillor Vokes indicates the downtown, are you speaking specifically of Essex Centre, or I see similar things happening in Harrow, and that where properties have been vacated and they have not been well cared for by the owner, by the property owner. We've got a couple of situations that I'm well aware of there as well. So is it a broader than just Essex Centre, just for clarification?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Phillips. It was my intent, and I did overlook it, to encompass it obviously to the municipality as a whole, wherever real estate may be. And it could be real estate that's not definitely even in the urban center, that has become a little bit deplorable and needs a little bit of TLC. So yes, and thank you for pointing that out.
Deputy Mayor Malash?
So just a question on that point. We do have a property standards committee. Is that something that they would normally look after, and we're just going to maybe give them more stringent rules to follow? Because right now, window cleaning wouldn't be part of it, or... Thank you.
Phillips?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to formally respond to Councillor Malash on that point, yes, we can. We can task that to them, and then use our bylaw enforcement officers to get out there and as Councillor Vokes indicates, to encourage TLC and compliance with the property standards.
Councillor Bjorkman?
Yeah, further to that, I mean, I realize our bylaw enforcement officers generally work on complaints. If somebody complains, then we go, and this has to be more of a proactive approach for us. And we can certainly do that. We have business associations in both of our main centers, and as well going out to Colchester and McGregor, we have people that are actively involved. So this is something we need to get people who are in the community, especially in the business community, if we can work with them and those organizations to help, not necessarily police things, but bring things to our attention. As Councillor Vokes is saying, it's not something we're not looking to, hey, you got to spend $10,000 to redo this or refurbish, but just let's keep it neat, let's keep it tidy. We've got a lot of people spending a lot of money on their stores and on their businesses and in their areas, that we need to support them by making sure that their neighbors are at least taking care of the basics on their properties.
Councillor Snively?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I think this is a direction that council and administration has to bring forward to our bylaw officers. I drive around our municipality, and I tell you, I can see some things out there. And I don't know how it's missed by our bylaw officers. They must go by these areas on a weekly basis. And I think what we got to do as council here is kind of instruct our bylaw officers. Maybe it's our own fault. We're not sitting down with bylaw officers, or our administrative staff isn't, and telling them what we want, what we need patrolled. I mean, I can go around. I'll give you some examples. I can go on Concession Road and see a trailer out there with a plywood lean-to all the way around it. It's a fire trap, and I'm sure our bylaw officers gone by that place many, many times. But then again, when you talk to somebody, they say we haven't received a complaint. I don't think they have to receive a complaint to act on a bylaw. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Your Worship. The councillor is very correct in that I do believe that it's something that administration needs to get its direction from council on. The previous council did work on a complaint-driven basis. They did not necessarily want their enforcement officers being as proactive as to go and look for problems or go and look for trouble. So I certainly will take that direction, and we'll articulate that through the administration if that's council's will. And it's something I think we would like to talk about at our upcoming strategic planning session with you in a few weeks, to talk about that very thing. How aggressive do you want to be? I too share your perspective that as you drive around the community, you can see many things. One of the areas that I find, having come here from an urban center, the number of commercial trucks that are parked in residential areas. Our bylaw speaks against the parking of trailers and semi-trucks in residential areas, but as you leave here tonight, you drive down Woodview, and you'll see two of them that are parked in front of residential properties. If we were to be enforcing the bylaw, those vehicles shouldn't be there. But again, it's complaint driven. That's the attitude we've taken with the past council. So if this particular term of council, you want to be more aggressive, that's all you need to do is prompt us to take that, and we'll take that action accordingly.
Thank you.
Councillor Vokes.
Just so I can get an understanding then for tonight, if I could, so is the intent to draft a bylaw up that talks about this or add it to the property standards? What are we going to do tonight here to initiate the next step of enacting this?
Whoops.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I think the intent is, what I heard happening is that we would take it back to the Property Standards Committee, which we do have a committee set by council for that, and we'll take that direction. I don't think there's, not being familiar with the commercial side of it, I know the residential side of the property standards, but I'm pretty sure there's some ammunition or some tools in our kit already for the property standards to impose what you're looking for, Councillor. And I would just pass that on to that committee, have them give us formal direction, and then we'll push that through Chris's shop and get that to happen.
Perfect, thank you. So we would get a report back, Russ, saying here's what we've done, and here's as of the date it will be enacted type thing. Okay, thank you.
We would keep council apprised of whatever actions are taken.
Thank you. Anything further? One more, okay. Councillor Vokes has one more item.
Yes, thanks for your indulgence. This again will only take a second. Myself and Councillor Larry Snively, along with Councillor Sherry Bondi, and I know the mayor had intents of going out there but got tied up and couldn't make it, and that was to the Transportation Museum. And we had a meeting out there with the Executive Board of Unifor Local 444, along with Therese Natashak, along with Lisa Gretzky in Windsor West, and Percy Hadfield in Windsor East, or Windsor-Tecumseh. And the reason we all convened out there was I had been contacted by Harry Bergman and Mickey Mulder going back a couple months ago. And what the Tourism Cabinet wants to do of Ontario is they get a monthly grant or a yearly grant for $29,000. And last year, the Essex Transportation Museum, or Heritage Transportation Museum, had tens of thousands of, in excess of hundreds of thousands of people go through that museum in forms of the car shows and whatever events they may hold out there. And it's a non-profit organization. And when the government of the day takes $29,000 out of their coffers, it hits home big. And ultimately, what I'm concerned about is if they take $29,000 out of the province takes $29,000 away from them, it will ultimately go on the back of the municipal governors to step up and do something. I certainly don't want that to happen. So with that being said, when we come out of that meeting, we had discussions that the elected representatives that through the NDP government, if you will send a letter to the Liberal government asking them to put that request or put that grant back in place in 2015, because it's not going to happen in 2014. So all I'm asking for is council to support what that government is going to be doing in terms of request, a letter to the to the province of Ontario, to the tourism cabinet. I can't think of the minister's name right now. It fails me. And I will get that name, but a letter to him from this council that says we would hope in 2015 you would put that $29,000 grant back in place for that museum. Because again, it's going to go back on to this municipality to do something in terms of helping them. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'm asking for that support. And I will make that a motion. Thank you.
Supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you, council.
And item B is Mayor McDermott, the March 2nd, 2015 council meeting. And council would need to discuss whether there's start time change to the meeting or change the date of the next regular meeting to March 3rd to allow council to attend the Greater Essex County District School Board Accommodation Review meeting in Harrow.
As we all know, probably at least half of us were at the Amherstburg meeting. I made mention that we had a council meeting same night that they had their meeting scheduled over at Harrow with regards to the closing of the schools. My recommendation was that they change the date because they only had 3 people involved in the meeting that would have to change their calendar. And many phone calls later with different people on the school board and everything, they said they couldn't do it. So my recommendation would be that we start our council meeting that night, March 2nd, at 5 o'clock, and through talking to some of the council members, they prefer a 5 o'clock start than having it changed to a different date. So that's up to us. Councillor Caxero.
I'll move that we start our March 2nd meeting at 5.
Okay, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? Okay, Councillor Bundy and then Councillor Bjorkman.
I would just like to prefer to see it at 5 on the Monday, just because if it's on the Tuesday, I can't go to the council meeting because of my library schedule. And I know both are equally important, but I'm elected to be at council meetings. I know I want to be at the school meeting too, but.
Councillor Bjorkman.
Yeah. What time is that meeting scheduled for the school
I
board?
believe it's 6:30 or 7. 7?
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
So that should give us enough time.
Yeah, and if we miss the first part of it, the people are going to know when we get there that we are supporting them, you know, the Harrow High School
No,
and junior school also, so, yes.
Okay, that's it. And yeah, as many of us that can get there, I think the better. I think we should all make a real good attempt to be
Exactly.
there.
Any further questions? All in favor of that motion? Motion carried, thank you very much.
And item
Council votes. Question?
Yeah, council, you're gonna kill me, but I gotta ask us something, and I meant to do it tonight, under new business, and I can't believe I forgot. And it was, I wanted a quick update from Russ on the mega hospital, because anybody seen the news, Tecumseh is speaking for it, and Windsor is speaking for it, and I wanna make sure that they know we're still speaking for it through the update on Russ. I'm just asking for 5 minutes.
Support.
I'm sorry, Council, let me apologize to you, but I just overlooked it.
Discussion. All in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Phillips, any update?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think what Councillor Vokes is seeking is an update from the session that you, the mayor, and Councillor Caxero and I attended last week in Kingsville. Back on February the 10th, I think it was, at the Migration Hall. There was a meeting that Nelson Santos had invited the WRH and the Lynn folks to come and make presentation on the status of the hospital. And at that meeting, we heard very clearly that from David Muji and David Cook and Gary Switzer of the Lynn, that there was a number of things on the go. One of the I think one of the pieces of information that was shared with the audience there that night, there was about 50 people in attendance, from what I understand from the media reports. I didn't look around to see how many were there. It felt like there was more than that. But they did indicate that there was a long-term commitment to the Leamington Hospital, in that Leamington is a needed piece of the go forward in terms of a single site acute care facility for the region. As far as locations go, they had 20 applications, and that's been confirmed through earlier media reports. 20 applications toward the finding a location for the regional site. They are still working towards a May timeframe to narrow it down to 5 candidates, and then they'll work very hard to get that down to 1 candidate, the selected site. And the selection committee hopes to have that have that decision made by June of this year. Now, that's further advanced than the earlier conversations we'd had with them, that they thought that they were inundated. The good news was that they had 20 applications, and as Dave Muji said, the bad news is they had 20 applications, and that they've got a lot of work to go through to determine which is the most appropriate location for this single site acute care facility. Some of the things that I picked up on that night were that, and Dave Muji said it a number of times, that if we're not ready as a region to show commitment for this, and to show fiscal commitment and regional commitment towards this, then there are others that are in the provincial queue that will take this spot. He said there's hospitals working away in Ottawa, there's Sudbury and other locations that are ready to take our spot in the queue. He indicated, and he used the term, "we deserve nothing less," a number of times. I don't know if the mayor and Councillor Caxero remember that comment, but I wrote it down as being something very important to us. They talked about what the new facility would be comprised of. I think it's some 650 beds, 80% of which will be single patient rooms, private rooms. Landmass is key. They talked about the type of site that they're looking for, and again, the site that's being put forward by a developer in Essex meets that criteria, I think, very well in terms of available landmass and affordability, those types of things. One of the things he also said, and it strikes me, and again, in this regional cooperation, is that the site selection committee will do a phenomenal job, but regardless of what site they choose, they will be wrong at the end of the day, because the region will just simply look at it and say, well, why isn't it in my backyard? That's our nature, right? And what he's really hoping is that there's a show of solidarity in whatever decision is made, and that the criteria for the site selection committee has been open and been very public more than ever before, and that they've used public criteria in this selection. In terms of funding, I applauded Brian Gregg and the county council here a week ago in recognizing that they put a $340,000 contribution in their budget, and I know council, both Deputy Mayor Malash and Mayor McDermott were involved in that decision, and it's not been ratified yet, of course, but that's in the budget document going forward. Donna and I discussed at length that we felt that as a show of commitment, we too as a community should be putting that forward. I won't push you one way or the other. We've had some very good dialogue, I think, the last few days, and I really appreciate Councillor Malash's input on this, and I take a bit of a step back on it in my push to say that we should be also having a budget line. I'll leave that for council to discuss at your budget discussions, which are upcoming. We have one tomorrow, but certainly feel that I'd like to see a plan, and that's one thing I've not seen at the CAO level, and I'm having a luncheon actually with the CAO, Brian Gregg, tomorrow, and we'll ask him about that I think collectively it behooves all of the communities to know what our contributions need to be and what that plan is going forward. Councillor Malash has been instructive to me in terms of that he believes that there is a plan between Rob Masonville and Brian. They've got a good handle, and I'm expecting to see that, and I look forward to seeing that piece. I hope that responds to some of the things that we've learned the last few days. Very positive still, and I know the county had Muji and Cook come in and give you a presentation at county level. This was Kingsville's opportunity the other day. If we felt it was appropriate, we could also ask them to come forward and make a presentation to the Essex community and Essex Council if that's something you wanted to do.
Councilor Volks?
Thank you, Your Worship. And on the last concern, Russ, about having them come and talk to us, I think we should. I think they should keep us in the loop, not so much indirectly, but directly. Because I want to say to council and everybody here, especially the media, that we're still here and we're in it for the long run. And we're not giving up. We think we got just as good a chance as anybody else to get that mega hospital right here in the municipality of Essex. I think we're deserving of it. I know we looked at in terms of how we fit in, and that is probably just as palatable as any other region. And in terms of budget, I don't see really any problem with putting the money away in terms of budget, just earmarking it for it. And in the event where it calls upon us to show that solidarity because some other region got it, I'm sure we'll rise to that. And we have the money there to put someplace else at that place and that time. So again, but the intent of discussions is to say to the media that we're here and we're alive and we're this council of the day is looking forward to that mega hospital being right here in the municipality of Essex, and we believe we're deserving of it, as always.
Anything further? Okay, thank you very much. Cheryl?
Item 14, notices of motion.
Councilor Bundy?
Thank you. I won't take long, and since we were already talking about this school subject, it's kind of still hot. As we all know, that Harrow High School and Western and Kingsville and Amherstburg are under the Planning Advisory Committee. I've had some just informal chats with our MPP, and I said, what do we do? What do we do? And I think it's unfair how we're going about doing this. I think we're pitting communities against communities. I personally don't think Western should close, or Amherstburg or Kingsville or Harrow. I think we need all of our high schools. So how can we keep all of our high schools? Well, there isn't an easy solution, but I think this council has to remain on this issue, and we have to remain vocal on this issue. So again, I want to write another letter and send another invitation. I think that we have to look at the funding model. We all know that school boards are funded per student, and when you fund per student, you're pitting urban against rural, and you really can't put a value on rural education. So I'd like to have a notice of motion for the next council meeting that we invite our premier down and the Minister of Education down to visit our local schools and to show them just what local education is all about. If we removed Harrow High School out of the community of Harrow, the economic impacts, the impacts to settlement, the impacts to tax bases, the impacts to everything would just take a spiral downhill. So I'd like to invite them down. We need to relook at this funding model. That is the only way I think that we can see a permanent solution to rural education. And it's not just happening in Windsor-Essex County. It's happening throughout the province. So it's time that we look at the broken model. So that will be my notice of motion for the next council meeting.
Thank you very much. Just a comment. They may be pitting, can't. Okay.
And item 15 is the adjournment.
Councilor Volks and Deputy Mayor Malash, always in order. All in favor? 100%. Thank you. Have a great evening.